So what are the most common mistakes that you see with young tennis players and how can they improve those?
I think you and sort of your peers at FSA, the kids who have grown up in the academy don't really make this mistake. But one of the mistakes that I think a lot of beginning and tennis players make at whatever levels, and including a lot of the adults that I see, it's kind of one of the, there's a lot of counterintuitive things in tennis, and you kind of have to work through those. And one of the things that a lot of people do, I have had this discussion just with players on my own Alta team, is a lot of times, people like, well, the ball's going long. Why is my ball going long? And it's like, well, counterintuitively, it's because you're not actually finishing your swing. Like if you stop your swing halfway through, the ball just sails. You got to finish the swing and get that top spin and all that sort of stuff. So, um, a lot of tennis to me is that with you guys, it's kind of interesting. I watch especially somebody like Viome, who's got beautiful, beautiful strokes, you know. But to me, when I watch some of his matches, he's really just hitting, he's just focusing on hitting nice shots. Whereas like when I played against you guys, I mean, I don't know, it's funny, you actually are the only one who took 3 games off of me, but when we did that, but like the other guys, Karthik and even your brother, uh, it's like I'm thinking about how to set up my next shot,
Yeah.
placing the ball, push you off balance, get you off balance so that I can do something else, as opposed to just keeping the ball in play. I think a lot of and that's something I've actually worked with my coach on over the past couple of years is for the singles game. It's sort of learning how to construct a point, strategically as opposed to, at a certain age, at a certain level, you know, if you're the kid who can just keep the rally going the longest, eventually the other kid misses. But as you know very well, you start seeing these really, these high UTR kids from places like William and Reed and Rivers who have really spent a lot of time on the game, you're not going to outlast them. You have to do something else. And so you need to develop a little bit of a plan, whatever that is. And just, and having a plan doesn't necessarily mean you're going to beat the kids who are that good, but
Exactly.
you can't just outlast somebody like that. So that's that's one of the things that I definitely see going on. Um, Another thing, just, you know, well, this is another thing that I've really kind of internalized in the past couple of years with the coach that I work with and learning is that um, the so often, whether it's you guys or again adults that I know or whatever, it's like you hit a bad shot and then you're like, doing this, looking at your racket, like, what did I do wrong with my swing? Well, the answer is there's nothing wrong with your swing. And I just said this to you one time, you know, it's all about it's actually your lower body that's
Yeah.
failing, and it happens to me all the damn time. And it's like 90% of the shots that I am not successful with, it's something went wrong with my lower body. It's very rarely something with the upper body with the swing. The swing is the swing. And if as long as your eyes are on the ball and you're focused on that contact point,
Yeah.
that's pretty much the same every time. But if you don't have any drive with your legs, if you're not getting low and staying low, if you're popping up, whatever, all these things. And it's just so funny because I see so many adults, I mean, all the time, like, oh, I need a new racket because I can't get my serves in. Like, well, tell me, did you have perfect form and perfect contact? And if you had perfect form and perfect contact and you didn't like the result of the shot because of something with the equipment, like, okay, maybe, but I would bet you, I bet you $1 million that you didn't have perfect form and you didn't have good contact and you didn't, whatever. So it's like, people love to blame things, and it's like, well, most of the time it's just you. The same time, I have one of my struggles. I played an Ultimate match yesterday. It was like one of the worst Ultimate matches I've ever had, um, and one of the coaches kind of pointed this out to me, and I think it was really, really true that I find that. instead of just focusing on the ball and keeping that focus and hitting like I know how to do, I start paying too much attention to what my body's doing. And I think about tweaking this or that. I'm stepping, I'm moving. I'm like, you gotta kind of, sometimes you just gotta clear your head, and let your instincts take over, and just allow yourself to drive the ball. Anyway, that was a lot of stuff.
That's all good. So, yeah. And so basically, I know at FSA, a lot of people have different skill levels and they play differently. So how do you kind of approach helping them and kind of coaching them because they have these different skills?
Yeah, I mean, one of the hardest things, I mean, even just like this past Thursday where we had that optional practice, right? Like, unfortunately, it was me by myself that day. It wasn't really supposed to be. Coach Cam had an issue come up, um, we get there and there's you, Sai, Yash, and then there's Quint and Edward and the girls, and it's like, I kind of I'm trying to balance where like if I design everything, if I plan things around them, well, you and Yash aren't going to have any fun just, when the ball's just coming at you slow and dinky or whatever and flying off the court all the time. And so a lot of it really, first off is just keeping people hitting with people who are closer to them in their skill level, so that they have fun and it seems reasonable. Because if I put, it's like I put you with Quint, you're going to get bored. He's going to get frustrated, right? It's or he's not going to have any fun. He's just going to be like watching the ball go flying by him. I mean, maybe he's not the best example, but some of these other kids, they just can't keep the ball in the court. So a lot of it is just sort of just trying to tailor activities to the level that we have. Obviously, we're very limited at Wills Park too. When we have 10 plus kids on two courts, it becomes hard. I kind of, again, thinking about what my role is, not as an academy coach, but in a high school tennis program, is really just a lot of it. I mean, I think the best thing for all of you guys really is mostly just playing games, matches, sets, whatever against each other, as opposed to, you know, running drills and stuff all the time. I mean, it's hard, unfortunately for me, especially like I think Cam's better at this. Like I'm not that good at running drills. I'm not used to it. I haven't done it enough. I mean, honestly, this is our second season. This is my second time doing any of this stuff. I feel a little bit more comfortable running drills and stuff this season, but it's especially hard to run drills when like it's easier, it works better again if I have whatever we're doing, if I have all kids on the court who are close to the same level, or at least, in the same half of the squad, then it's more productive. And so when the team's really unbalanced, it's hard. I had it, yeah, I find it difficult. I really with some kids like you, I mean, other than strategy, like I can't teach you how to hit the ball, right? I mean, you hit the ball better harder than I do. I mean, I think at sometimes I look at you and Rishi and whatever, and I think, well, your swing looks at times look a little bit overly complicated. You got a lot going on. It really, to me, it looks like it would be good to simplify, but you've spent years developing whatever you do with your academy coaches, and obviously it's good. So I don't want to try to mess with you. At the same time, the kids who are weaker players, like I can say a little bit of this and that, but like I don't have time to kind of go one on
Yeah.
one and really, really focus on repetition of specific things.
Yeah.
So I just kind of focus on more or less for me, I just kind of focus on the fun and the overall experience of being on a tennis team and let the actual, skill kind of be what it is and work itself out. And, if I see something, I'll say something, as something I think might be helpful, but I'm not trying to, reinvent anybody. It's really just at this stage of where you guys are all at just trying to, give you opportunities to practice and play and have a good time.
Yeah. And then, so I know you've seen a lot of matches at FSA, and so what would you recommend for the players to maintain focus and composure during a match?
That's a really, really good question because we see a lot of loss of composure. Um, and it's really, really interesting. And we've also seen some good composure at times, some good examples. I mean, I'll tell you, last was it? It wasn't on Friday. The match on Tuesday, I guess.
You see?
Karthik ended up losing 0-8,
Yeah,
and yet he looked really good doing it. He didn't look flustered or frustrated or whatever. And so much of that, I think I struggle with this sometimes too. It's sort of like, over the past couple of years, I've actually improved a lot. And it's like the the better I get, the higher my expectations for myself, and the harder it is to live up to those expectations. And then, the more frustrated I get when I have a bad day and I don't live up to my
yeah,
own expectations. And you know, the and I'll be honest, I'm not always the best at that. The one thing I think there's a couple of things though that I see and hear kids doing, which drives me crazy because even when I get frustrated and I can't execute the way I want to in a match or whatever. There's one difference that to me that's important that I hold myself to, and that is still it's sort of a while I may not have total confidence, I don't allow myself to say or think like I can't do this. A couple weeks ago, I think it was at the match at King's Academy. when I don't know, maybe it was a different one. Like Michelle was playing singles, and she's like, Coach, I can't hit a forehand today. I'm like, well, if you're over here at the fence in the middle of the match telling me you can't hit a forehand, I'm pretty sure you're not going to successfully hit a forehand. I mean, you can't have that kind of mentality. You can say, I haven't been hitting my forehands well. I'm trying to hit my forehands better. But if you just say I can't, the I can't language is a killer, right? I mean, you know that. I mean, as soon as you tell yourself you can't do something, you won't do it. You won't be able to do it. And I know you can, and I know you all can, and you just gotta keep it sort of positive. At the same time, I mean, we all have bad days, and so, but some of those little psychological things, they just, I mean, we see you guys on the court sometimes spiraling, and you can see it in the body language. You either step up, you lose a point, and you're either dragging like this, or whatever, or you're just shaking it off and trying to get ready for the next one, and you got to just try to resist that tendency to get down and focus on the negative and just try to stay positive and whatever. It just makes such a big difference, I think, so often. Another thing that I see people doing a lot, and it kind of I kind of laugh at some of it, but I don't think you guys have this problem. So many adults are like, you know, especially at some of these like Alta matches, people get serious and whatever, and they they expect it to be like stadium court at US Open with the umpires shushing the crowd. Like there's noise in the world. You know, the best thing you can do when there's noise and distractions off the court, people cheering, lawnmower, leaf blowers running, whatever it is instead of getting mad and be like, this is screwing me up, I can't play with this leaf blower going. It's just like, hey, how about you take that as an opportunity to work on your focus and tune it out, right? And it's
exactly.
kind of it's because so many people, again, like there's any little noise off the court, they get mad at the noise, the source of the noise. They're complaining about it, like, oh, I lost because there was this leaf blower going, or this lady kept yelling over here at her kids or whatever. Like stop.
Yeah,
You focus, 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 focus. If you're not good at focusing, then guess what? Get better at it. Don't blame the distractions. So that's again, like I said, I feel like you kids tend to do better at that than most of the adults out there. I guess you've probably just kind of grown up and playing at parks and things going on around you where that's not as much of a problem. Um, but but again, it's just another little thing.
And so, kind of touching up on the last question, I know playing schools like William and Reed and Rivers, they spend years playing well, they spend years perfecting it. And so, what advice would you give to like the FSA tennis players on handling the losses and staying motivated?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, fortunately, I mean, as as I was kind of joking with some of the other parents the other day, and it's very true that in these matches, especially in sort of the range of schools that FSA competes against specifically, it's like some days we're David, some days we're Goliath, I mean, and it's unfortunate, it's like the King's Academy has been an awesome addition to our schedule this year, and we played them twice, and it was great because like all these matches were terrific. We had so many great matches, and like that was so good to see. I wish we had more of that because it really does tend to be more lopsided, either good or bad. You play Dominion and you just sweep everybody, and you play Rivers and you get swept and whatever. Um, you know, Unfortunately, like our schedule's not that long. We just don't have that many matches. And so you have a few of those, and then a couple like Kings. Somebody like I have a friend whose daughter went and played college tennis, and she was obviously a pretty serious tennis player. I mean, she played D3, but regardless, I mean, she's a good player and she played for many years. And her dad was telling me, that one of her coaches said, which I totally agree with, is sort of an ideal world you know, you you win maybe a third of your matches confidently. Third of your matches are really competitive, and a third of the matches, you kind of, you have virtually no chance. Your opponent's just flat out better than you. And I think that's the best sort of balance of things because if you win all the time, you're just not playing good enough competition. If you lose all the time, I mean, it is demoralizing. I mean, I get that. But at the same time, if you never play people who are clearly better than you, you know, then
Improve.
you don't learn
Yeah.
what it takes at a higher level and to improve. I mean, you can't improve by playing people that you beat, right? I mean, you don't. I mean, if you only play people, even if you only play people who you sort of beat, you're just going to plateau at a point where you've done enough to beat that person. Whereas you play these better kids, like they're going to force you to evolve and develop different tactics and skills and whatever. But it takes time. And so, I mean, over the course of the season, what you play Rivers once, you play William and Reed once, you know, you get creamed and you don't, you'd have to play that same kid 10 times to start working toward how do you get to, whatever he's doing to you to counter it, right? You need more opportunity than just one or two matches to work on that, which is why, I mean, high school tennis, that's what's again, you just kind of like look at this high school team. It's kind of a fun thing to do with your classmates and your school and whatever. But you know, but when you compare it to the kids who play in tournaments all the time and are really serious and trying to take their game to the next level, like you don't really take your game to the next level playing high school tennis. You're just
Yeah.
not. You have 8 matches, whatever. We've been playing 8 game pro sets. You're not even playing full setters. I mean, you know, you're just sort of doing what you know how to do in those matches. You want to really get better, you're playing 5 days a week against better competition, day in and day out, just working at it.
Yeah.
I mean, not to be discouraging to anybody, I mean, but for some people, tennis is just recreation, another form of entertainment, fun. And for some people, tennis is something that they're really, really serious about. And you kind of got to decide where you fall in those. And it's a spectrum. I mean, you might be somewhere in between, um, but yeah, it's really, you know, you can only do so much in a high school tennis, in the
Exactly.
context of a high school tennis season.
And so my final question is, what's the best piece of advice you've received as a coach or player?
Yeah. Um, It's interesting. I think that I guess I've got a couple things I could talk about. One is definitely for me is what I was saying earlier about the upper body versus the lower body. People just
Yeah.
don't realize how important the lower body is, the movement, and the early preparation, during the rally from one shot to the next, hit your shot, prepare for the next shot,
Yeah.
get yourself in position and all that sort of stuff. Everybody thinks it's about their swing mechanics, and it rarely is. Um, what else? You know, just another thing. I think people underestimate, um, you know, how how long it takes to develop skills, and what that means in terms of practice and repetition. You know, it's like when you were, you probably started playing tennis when you were what, 7 years old or something?
I think 12,
12? You didn't
13.
start playing until you're 12? Wow, that's pretty good. Okay, that's pretty good. But like, I'm guessing like there was a program your parents dropped you off for a couple hours,
Yeah.
five
Yeah.
days a
Yeah.
week or whatever. You weren't thinking about it at the time in these terms. You were just like, well, my parents dropped me off on Monday through Friday for at
Yeah.
4 o'clock or whatever, and I go for 2 hours and blah, blah, blah. But the thing you got to realize is like adults don't do that. Adults don't have, most adults don't have the time to be like, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week for years potentially on end, whereas kids do. And so, but that's the sort of setup that you need to develop at whatever age. Frankly, I mean, I think it's easier to develop at those younger ages, but the truth is adults can develop new skills too. But playing an Ultima match once on Saturday morning and maybe practicing with your teammates on Tuesday night, twice a week, that's not how you develop. You have to be a little bit more committed to it. So it's I guess it really just kind of comes down a little bit to sort of what I expectations and what I've learned. So one thing that I started playing tennis when I was probably 10 or 11 years old. Um, I never had the sort of serious academy stuff that you guys had. Frankly, I only played high school tennis in ninth grade, and then actually I grew up in Ohio, and in Ohio, I guess it's the same here, but so, tennis is spring sport, just like you guys. Well, I decided to switch to baseball, and I played baseball 10th through 12th grade, and then after that, tennis was just sort of again recreation for me. And one of the things, though, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, I started to devote a little more time, and I wanted to play more tennis, and I joined one of these flex leagues and whatnot, and I was playing a bunch of matches. But I always had a garbage backhand. It was always just sort of like, what, it's like, okay, I feel decent about my forehand. I'll hit the ball, I'll run around the backhand, I'll slap the ball back with my backhand as I need to, just to sort of keep the point going and hope that I can get some forehands. And finally, I was kind of getting to a point where, I mean, clearly I was very, very limited by that. And I told one of the coaches over at Lifetime I wanted to, like, what, I really, really, really want to have a two-handed backhand. But at the same time, I'm like, if you hit the ball to me and I go like this,
Yeah.
it was like for me, it felt like the most awkward thing in the world. Like, and I tried to do it and I couldn't even hit the freaking strings 50% of the time. Like it would literally, I was just shanking everything. And I just, and it was okay, I just had to commit. I'm just like, well, I'm gonna have lessons every week with this pro every single week, and we're just gonna work on this. And I'm just gonna keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it until it starts to come. And it took months before I actually like would start hitting a two-handed backhand in a match, even with my friends and messing around and playing for fun. Um, but eventually I get to where now I'm just as comfortable with my backhand as my forehand pretty much. And that was an interesting lesson for me because for so long I just had it in my head that gosh, this is so awkward. I think I'm just not meant to do it this way, or I'm just not going to be good at this. And it's not about being good at it or not being good at it. It's about the dedicating the time and effort and commitment to doing it. And I think that lesson carries through to, I mean, it carries through to a lot of things in life, not just tennis, um, but, uh, but, but I think it's, you know, not expecting things to happen overnight. Again, one more thing, so many of I talked about, people complaining about the equipment and all this sort of stuff. Another thing is just like, you know, people like, well, I have this issue, so I'm going to take a lesson. Okay. So
Yeah.
they go out with a pro and they like, they talk to the pro about like, I have this issue with my serve, or I have this issue with my volleys or whatever, right? And they expect the pro to tell them something that they can then do, and
Yeah.
then it fixes everything. It doesn't work that way. I mean, yes, you may need some guidance in terms of the verbal, whatever, but then you have to practice it
Yeah.
for many, many hours,
Yeah.
and internalize these things. You can't just take a lesson and expect to have any measurable benefit whatsoever from one tennis lesson.
Yeah.
It, for me at this point too, like while I work with a pro, I spend an hour with a pro every Tuesday morning over at Lifetime, and I don't even call it lessons so much. I call it, practice. You
Yeah.
know, he's not my teacher, he's my coach, he's like
Hmm.
helping me figure out, but I'm the one who's doing most of it. Occasionally he'll like, well, this is what I see. I'm like, okay, I'll try to adjust that. Um, but like so many skills, you just have to be committed to putting in the time and not expecting things to happen magically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
So that
it.
about sums up my questions. So thank you so much, Coach. Learned a lot of stuff I didn't even know.